Hey, my name is Agung,
And I'm Charlie.
and we are about to share the top 10 things you need to know before you're traveling to Sumatra, Indonesia.
So keep watching because these things you absolutely have to know. Since my first trip to Sumatra in 2009, I spent a lot of time travelling here, and I was permanently based here for quite a few years pre-COVID. So I have quite a lot of insider knowledge and tips to give you.
And I live in Sumatra my whole life, so I forgot the local knowledge you need to have a safe, stress-free and exciting trip.
So let's get started with one of the most important things, money.
Indonesia's currency is in rupiah. The smallest coin you can get is 500 rupiah, and the largest note you can get is 100,000 rupiah, which is the beautiful one, the red one. So right now 100,000 rupiah is the same like 7 euro or 7 US dollar or 10 Australian dollar.
The number of zeros on the currency can be really confusing if you're from a country where the notes are a lot smaller. So it is important to get your head around that so you don't get confused when you're shopping. You've got to remember that even though 2,000 rupiah may sound like a lot, back home, for me anyway, it's only 20 cents. So try and figure that out early on in your trip.
One of the most important things you need to know is that you need cash before you travel to Sumatra. Because away from the big city, not many places take credit cards for payment. So you will need to always carry cash with you.
There are plenty of ATMs in the cities and towns, but more off the beaten path areas can be tricky. Most ATMs allow you to withdraw on your Visa or MasterCard, but it's important to know that many have limits on how much you can withdraw at one time. For example, some machines may let you only take 1 million, which is about $100 in one transaction, and you can do it many times, one transaction after the other, but that might build up more fees on your bank. So check with your bank on the fees before you come here.
If you're going to Aceh, you need to know that you won't be able to use your foreign card in any of local ATM in Aceh, even in Pulau. Our friends in Aceh recommend withdrawing plenty of cash before you going. But if you get stuck, you can ask your guide or your accommodation and send them money online, and then they'll take money for you.
Speaking of transfers, we like to use a company called Wise. So Wise is an online service that lets you safely and securely send money to over 50 different currencies, including Indonesia. You can send money from your home bank account to any Indonesian or Sumatran bank account, and the money can be sent in just a few seconds, depending on what kind of transfer you're doing. Sometimes it can take longer, maybe a day or so. You can even get yourself a Wise credit card that you can use in Sumatra at ATMs or some businesses if they accept credit cards. We use ours all the time to withdraw money here in October or make some payments, and we've never had any problems. We think Wise is a really awesome solution for managing your money when you're traveling anywhere in Indonesia, and especially here in Sumatra. And if you want to find out more about it and get yourself an account or a credit card, you can check out the link in our description below.
And another important tip in Sumatra is that try to carry small money with you, especially when you're traveling outside of the big city or touristy area. For example, if you buy Coke in a small remote area and it costs 8,000 and you bring 100,000, it can be a big problem.
Yeah, or sometimes if you're catching a taxi or a share car, the fee's quite small, and then you only have big money, and the solution often ends up being that you have to pay a lot more than it was worth.
Yeah.
Compared to most Western countries, Indonesia is a really affordable place to travel, and Sumatra is excellent for travellers on a tight budget.
Meal at local warung or restaurant, it will cost you around 20,000 rupiah. If you're eating at Western style restaurant, it will cost you around 40 to 50,000 rupiah per meal. Of course, if you're eating in a fancy place, it could cost you a lot more. A small bottle bir bintang, it costs around 27 to 35,000 per bottle. And for the large one, it costs around 35 to 50,000 rupiah.
When it comes to accommodation, that does vary depending on where you go. But in many places you can get like a basic backpacker room for as little as 50,000 rupiah per night. You can stay in a pretty decent 3 or 4 star hotel for between 2 and 300,000, starting from that. Or you can score a 5-star hotel starting from around 1 million rupiah, which sounds a lot, but it's only like $100 where I'm from, so it's a pretty good deal. If you want to hire a scooter for a day, you're looking at around 100,000 rupiah. And for other transport, that changes a lot depending on what kind of transport you're going on and where you are in Sumatra, but we're going to talk about that in just a second.
People always ask us what the best way to travel all around Sumatra, and this is one of the hardest things traveling here. So Sumatra is the third largest island in Indonesia. It's 480,000 square kilometers. It's bigger than Sweden or Malaysia, and twice as big as New Zealand or UK. Even traveling within one province, it can take you all day. So our tip is slow down. If you only have a few weeks, try to pick one or two places and enjoy them instead of trying to do everything. So, what's the best way to get around? It depends on how much money you have and how much time you have.
So flights are definitely the fastest and most comfortable way to get around between the provinces, but they're also the most expensive. Pre-COVID, they were pretty affordable, but at the moment they're quite high. But if you do have the budget, this is the best way to see more of Sumatra in less time. Local budget airlines like Lion Air are really affordable and very common, but they're quite hard to book online on their websites using a foreign card. So our tip is to use a site called nusatrip.com. And we used them many times over the last few years and never had a problem. If you want to see more of Sumatra but you have a tight budget and maybe some extra time, then long distance bus trips are an excellent option. For example, you can get an overnight bus from Medan down to Padang or Medan up to Banda Aceh for maybe 300 to 400,000 rupiah. You can book some of the routes online using the Traveloka website or the app, but they don't have all the routes on there and it can be a little bit confusing. So we recommend doing what a lot of tourists do and sort of planning as you go. When you get to your guest house or talking to your driver, they can help you go directly and book your bus trip from a provider locally.
Remember, not all the buses is the same. Some of them is quite fancy with air conditioning and comfortable chair, and some of them is pretty basic. You can, in the basic one, sometimes people smoke in it and then play loud music.
And buses are also the most common form of transport for shorter trips. If you're traveling locally, you'll be on something called an angkot, which is like a minibus or a minivan. These are widely used by locals, really cheap, but not really very comfortable. You're probably going to be squashed in with a lot of different people and packages, but a really good way to get around and you get the local experience. So there is some middle ground between flying or taking a bus, and that is to hire a private car with a driver. We love this option because it's really comfortable and of course you can stop wherever you like on the way. Cars and drivers are available pretty much anywhere throughout Sumatra, and while they aren't cheap, they are quite an affordable option compared to other countries. For example, if you're making the 3 to 4 hour trip from Medan here to Lake Toba, you'll probably pay around 7 to 800,000 rupiah for the whole trip. For something a little bit cheaper, you can organise a shared car or a shared taxi. The best way to do this is by talking to your host, your hotel owner or tour provider, and they should be able to help you arrange something. If you're lucky, you might even be able to meet up with a few other tourists and share the cost for those cars. But they're not available everywhere, so you'll have to sort of do it as you go. What many tourists don't know is that there are trains in Sumatra as well. They're a really fast and easy and affordable way to get around, but it's not really a good connected network. They're only available in some parts of Sumatra. But it is a good option if you're in the right place. So if you're travelling, for example, in North Sumatra, around Medan, from the airport to Medan, or from Medan up north to some of the towns like Sianta, you can catch a train. Also between Bandar Lampung and Palembang in South Sumatra, and around Padang in West Sumatra.
If you do want to travel by train, check the schedule at Kereta Api Indonesia or book online in Traveloka or ticket.com.
It's pretty likely too that you're going to end up on a boat at some time if you're visiting Sumatra. There's more than 50 small islands here, from Lake Toba, Nias, Mentawai Islands, heaps of different places that you might want to go. So you'll be catching either a ferry or a bigger boat. Often you have the choice of a slow boat or a fast boat. Slow boat is obviously slower and cheaper. Fast boat gets you there faster. There's not really many places that I know of to book online, so you're usually going to be ending up going directly to the ferry sites. But you can find that out on your journey. One thing you should remember if you're going to be travelling by boat is to leave a little bit of extra time. The weather can be unpredictable, so if you're planning to fly back home from Medan and you're catching a boat in the morning, not a good idea, especially if you're coming from somewhere quite far away. So give yourself a bit of time in case the weather changes and you can't get on that boat.
And now let's talk about traffic. I love this one.
Traffic.
To be honest, traffic here is crazy. There is rule, but I can say there's nobody following the rule. Yeah. If you're riding a bus, you might find it a bit scary because sometimes the bus just ride their own rule, like passing somebody. Sometimes the tourist is a bit nervous and they're holding to a chair like this because the car is like they're not in their own way, and then they're passing the car like easy, just like that. And it could make you shocking, so you better prepare for that.
Yeah, if you're not used to it, our best advice is to trust your drivers. These guys have been doing it their whole lives. They know what they're doing. They know the rules. Just let go and trust that you know what you're doing. As long as you choose a reputable company, choose a well-known driver, you'll be fine, and just hold on and enjoy the ride. Yeah. Some people want to know if you can hire a car yourself and drive yourself around Sumatra. Of course you can, but the better question is, should you? We don't recommend driving yourself long distance or in the busy cities unless you are really used to living somewhere that has kind of chaotic traffic. It's much safer if you use the other kinds of transport and it's more affordable. And if you use a driver, there's no chance that you're going to get blamed for any accidents if they do happen. So we recommend sticking with the driver. Yeah. I personally don't drive a car here. I drive a scooter around our quiet little village. But my best tip for you is drive as if every person and animal and vehicle you see will do something wrong and get in your way, and then you should be fine. Yeah.
In some places of Sumatra, they do hire a motorbike for you, and like here in Tuk Tuk or in Pulau, and usually it costs 100,000 a day, and it's come with helmet. If you hire a scooter, please make sure you're wearing helmet.
Another cheap and fun way of getting around in some places is by becak. You might know of becaks from other countries as called tuk-tuks, but that's really confusing if we live in Tuk Tuk. So they're called becak. A becak is like a motorbike with a little sidecar where you can sit. But they're not available everywhere. In the big cities you can get them. They're really, really cheap. And you can have them here in Tuk Tuk for going on tours and probably quite a few other places in Sumatra. But one thing to know before you use a becak is to agree on the price before you get on. And you can bargain with the driver for that.
Yes. In a big city, taxi is affordable. And make sure you use Bluebird because you can trust them.
Yeah, and you can find them at taxi stands or get your hotel to book them, but if you have a phone and some data, download the My Bluebird app and you can track your ride and order taxis online.
Yes.
And speaking of booking things online, the last thing on our list is ride sharing apps. There's two really amazing ones that you should use when you're in Sumatra or in Indonesia anywhere. They're called Grab and Gojek. They're not available everywhere, but where they are available, they're awesome, yeah?
Yes.
Fantastic to use. Both apps are really good for shorter trips, but sometimes if you get lucky, you can negotiate with your driver for a slightly longer journey as well and get a good price. All you need to do on these apps is put your location in, where you are, where you want to go, and it will show you the available drivers, how much it's going to cost you, and track your driver as he comes to you, his location, and track the whole journey. We highly recommend downloading Grab and Gojek when you're here because Gojek also does a lot of other things, but we're going to talk about that in our next section, the most essential apps you're going to need when you come to Sumatra.
Okay, you guys need to know more about these awesome Gojek apps.
Yeah.
Of course, you can hire a car or motorbike, but there's more than that.
Yeah.
You can order a food, something even.
Yeah, you can order any food you want and they'll bring it to your hotel. Even the fancy hotels, we never had a problem. They let us get our food delivered. Unfortunately, like we said, it's only available in some areas. But if you are going to be spending time in Medan, download the app. You can't live without it.
It's really worth it, and then it's really will be change your life.
Yeah, we love Gojek. The next must-have app on our list is WhatsApp. This is an instant messaging app that everybody in Indonesia uses. So if you're wanting to communicate with hotels, drivers, even immigration, they all have a WhatsApp number. Emails often go without getting answered, right? They just go to the inbox. And sometimes Facebook Messenger is okay, but everybody has WhatsApp, so you really should get it. This is the best way to keep in touch with people when you're in Sumatra. You can do messages, you can do voice calls, or you can do video calls, or you can even do group chats. So it's really fantastic. It's free, it all uses Wi-Fi or data, so you don't have to bother buying Pulsar for your phone to make phone calls or text messages, just use WhatsApp. So yes, WhatsApp is the best way to stay connected and organise your trip as you travel to Sumatra. So don't leave home without it.
Google Translate, that's a good one because many people speak English, but not everyone, especially if you're in small places, small village.
Another Google one is Google Maps to help you figure out where you're going, but that does use data. So I actually prefer one called maps.me because you can download maps of entire countries or regions while you're somewhere that has Wi-Fi, have them on your phone, and then you can still use them even if you don't have data or a signal. Obviously, most of the time in Sumatra, you're going to be driven anyway, but I often used it when I was traveling by taxi and I wanted to make sure my taxi driver was going the right way.
And of course, don't forget your favorite apps to booking your accommodation. In Sumatra, it's famous for booking.com, Agoda or Traveloka. Of course, to use all of those apps, you're gonna need Wi-Fi or data. So let's talk about it. Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere in a big city, touristy area, in your hotel and restaurant. You might be not find it in a small village, and if you do, it might be not good.
So if you are traveling around Sumatra outside of those areas, we definitely recommend buying a SIM card for your phone with a local number. and buy some data to go with it. It's really affordable and quite essential, we think, especially if you're going off the beaten path. But one thing you do need to know, it's not as easy as it used to be to get a SIM card here. Before, you could go to almost any little shop anywhere and buy a SIM and it would work, but now they've changed the rules that you have to register your SIM card when you arrive in the country. So if you're here for less than 3 months, it's quite straightforward. You just got to make sure that when you first arrive in Indonesia, whether it's Sumatra or somewhere else, you go to, what's it called?
Grapari.
A Telkomsel Grapari store, and there they're going to register your phone for you to make sure it will work. If you head somewhere else, like here in Lake Toba, and try and buy a SIM, it's not going to work because they can't register it for you. So really important that you make sure you do that. Like if you arrive in Medan, you can do it at the airport or go to one of the many shops in the cities to do that. If you're going to be here longer than 3 months, it's a little bit more complicated. You have to register your IMEI number of your phone. You have to do that at customs when you arrive, and you might have to pay tax on your phone. But let's just leave that for another day because that can get quite complicated.
Or another option, if you don't have time to do all of those things, you can just buy new phone here and buy SIM card.
You can buy a cheap local phone here with a SIM, and it will
you're
work
good to
just
go.
fine. It's a good option.
Personally, we use Telkomsel SIM card, and it's common everywhere, and it costs around 50,000 rupiah, because some Telkomsel card is not including data or pulsa, so make sure you ask for that.
Yeah. What you buy in Sumatra, you can buy pulsa, which is like credit. So that's putting a certain amount of money on your phone. And then with that money on your phone, you can either buy data packages or like calling and texting packages. You can buy data packages that last a day, a week, or a month, or different amounts of data. So maybe from 1 gigabyte right up to like 30 or 50 gigabyte. But you probably won't need that much unless you're going crazy watching YouTube or something. But you'll probably end up paying, I think it's around 20,000 for 1 gig. Does that sound right?
Something like that.
Always changes, so just see what you end up with. And then if you run out of credit or data during your travels, you can easily go to any small shop and ask them to top you up, loan more. Or if you have an Indonesian friend or someone that you know, you can even ask them to send you data and give them a couple of rupiah and they will send it to your phone. It's pretty easy. If you look at a weather forecast for many places in Sumatra, it's easy to get put off from visiting because often they have rain cloud, thunder, thunder, thunder all week, and it's easy to assume that it's going to be like that, but they're not always right. The equator cuts right through the middle of West Sumatra, sort of halfway through the island, so that means Sumatra is hot and humid and tropical, but like we said before, it's really, really big. So each region, or even different towns within each region have different weather patterns. There aren't 4 seasons, there's only 2, so musim
Panas and musim Kemarau, which is dry season and wet season.
That's right. And the best time to visit Sumatra totally depends on where you're going and what you want to do.
In general, May to August is dry season, and also that's mean touristy season. Many tourists come to Sumatra, and it doesn't mean it's not rain at all. It's rain also sometimes, also thunder, right?
Yeah, but not as often, yeah?
No.
And usually shorter showers,
Yeah.
but not necessarily.
And wet season is unprotectable. It sometimes starts from October, November, December until January.
Yeah,
Not sure.
depending on where you are. It starts a little earlier in the south than it does in the north. But in the south, June and September is like the best time to visit. In the north, May onwards. In West Sumatra, they say July is the best time, but February is also good. So I think you get the picture that there's really not one amazing time to visit Sumatra. Yes, you might want to aim for dry season, but wet season also has a lot to offer, yeah?
And remember, wet season can be dry and dry season can be wet.
Yeah, and they can all kind of be mixed together. There's not a clear line between the two anymore.
Yes.
Also, obviously, rainforests have a lot more rain, so they're generally wetter. And places that are higher altitude are a bit cooler. For example, where we live in Lake Toba, the climate is perfect, right? It's a lot cooler, it's less humid. Other high places the same, like nearby Brastagi can actually get quite cold at night time.
Temperature is quite consistent all year. During day it's between 27 to 32, and it's getting cooler during evening.
So to summarize all of that confusing information, dry season is the best time to visit, around June to August, but you'll still have an awesome time if you come at other times of the year. The difference is that trekking or outdoor activities, they can be affected if you get really bad weather. Rivers can flood, there can be landslides, and of course the extra rain means more leeches and more mosquitoes. So keep all of that in mind. As a summary, I think be prepared for hot and sticky weather.
Yes, of course.
Bring light, quick drying clothing, some sunscreen, a hat, and some waterproof bags, and you'll be covered for anything that comes your way, yeah? So now we're going to talk about everyone's favorite thing, food and drink. Of course, when you're in Sumatra, you're going to have access to all the Indonesian favorites, like nasi goreng, which is fried rice, but Sumatra has some really special and unique foods as well.
A lot of famous food in Sumatra is come from Padang in West Sumatra. My favorite one is called rendang, delicious curry that you should try. You should know that Sumatran food is famous to being spicy, and if you like spicy and your tummy can handle it, you probably will love it.
But unfortunately, not everyone has a strong stomach like me and a little bit sensitive to spicy food. So if it doesn't agree with you, don't panic, there's still lots of things you can eat in Sumatra. Good old things like nasi goreng, mee goreng, which is fried rice or noodles.
Gado-gado.
Generally aren't spicy. Gado-gado is a fantastic one. It's a peanut sauce with vegetarian food, not spicy. And you can even try some of the curries. You just need to ask for it to be tidak pedas, not spicy. Just be warned that sometimes that doesn't work all the time. Sometimes it does, but often if you ask for not spicy food, they dial it down a lot, but it's still too spicy for me.
Or you can say tidak pakai cabai, which means no chili at all.
Yes.
Tidak, and make sure you ask twice, no spicy, or even more than twice.
Yeah, don't worry, you'll find plenty to eat even if you can't handle the spice like me. At many local places in Sumatra, you're going to see the food displayed out the front of the shop in the cabinet. So you'll see little plates of curries and meat and eggs and vegetables and things like that. And that's kind of Padang style food. And you can go in there and you can ask them what you want, point to the different things. Or you can sit down at the table, and they'll bring different things for you.
Yeah, and they'll bring different things for you, and then they'll bring water in the bowl. So make sure you not drink it, because that's for wash your hand. So the reason why they give you bowls of water is not for a drink, because a lot of Indonesian people, like me even, eating but with our hand, not using fork or spoon. So if you not eat by your hands, make sure you ask for spoon or fork.
Yeah, Western style food is available in many places in Sumatra. Big cities and tourist areas have plenty to choose from, but smaller villages probably only have local food. If you're a vegetarian, there are still plenty of options. A lot of Indonesian meals are automatically vegetarian, so you don't even have to ask for them. You can find tofu and tempeh pretty much everywhere. So a lot of people haven't heard of tempeh, so that is fermented soybeans made into a kind of cake. It doesn't sound that great, but it is.
It's yummy.
It is yummy. So we mentioned before, gado-gado is a popular vegetarian dish with vegetables, and it comes with egg, and you can get fried rice without any meat, things like that, but also lots of other dishes to choose from. Vegans also have options, although you need to be aware that a lot of dishes do contain egg. So if you don't want egg in your dishes, ask for tidak telur, and be very clear about that, otherwise they might sneak some egg in. Of course, there's also lots of awesome, delicious tropical vegetables, fruit to try, like the normal things like pineapple and watermelon and mangoes, but also some more exotic things like durian,
Rambutan,
mangosteen, what else?
Rambutan, or jackfruit.
Yeah, lots of things to get stuck into and try. So I recommend giving them all a go, even if they smell weird or look funny, you might just like them.
Now about drinks. Remember, do not drink tap water. It's not safe.
Not anywhere, not in the cities, not in a fancy hotel. Don't drink it.
Buy your own water. Usually in restaurant they'll give you a cup of water including your food. Usually it's a warm boiling water.
If you are worried about food and drink safety in Sumatra, just follow the general rules that people advise. So that's avoid drinks with ice in them if you're worried. Stick to fruit that you can peel, and only eat vegetables if they've been cooked. You should be fine. Aside from that, you can drink pretty much anything you want in Sumatra. Sumatra's famous for coffee, so make sure you give that a try. Just bear in mind that it's quite strong here. Tea and coffee, hot and cold. If you ask for milk in your tea and coffee, it's probably going to be condensed milk instead of the dairy milk you're used to in a lot of places. So that'll make it very sweet. Otherwise, go hard and try all the exotic fizzy drinks you find in the fridge.
If you coffee lover, so if you know a cup of coffee, make sure you ask no sugar or tidak gula. Because sometimes they put sugar straight away.
It's a bit much, Cool. Okay, on to the next thing is languages.
as you know, Sumatra is part of Indonesia, so of course everybody mostly speaking Indonesian.
Yeah.
But one thing you might not know, Indonesian is second language for many people. Example like me, I don't know Indonesian language until I'm going to school. I'm a Caronis people, so I don't learn Indonesian until I'm going to school.
Yeah, you speak Bahasa Karo.
Yes.
So in fact, there are actually more than 50 different ethnic groups in Sumatra alone, which is kind of mind-blowing, which means there are more than 50 different languages spread throughout the country. The primary language you're going to hear depends on what part of Sumatra you're going to. Here in Lake Toba, the main language is Batak Toba. Only a few hours away in Brastagi is Agung's people, the Caronese people, and in those areas they speak Karo. In Aceh they speak Achenese. In West Sumatra they use Minangkabau language, and even the small islands like Nias or Mentawai, they all have their own languages.
Yes, which is mind-blowing, isn't
It
it?
is mind-blowing. But don't stress, you don't need to learn 50 different languages for your trip to Sumatra. English is quite widely spoken, particularly tourist areas, so if you speak English you'll be able to communicate pretty well wherever you go.
Yes.
But if you're heading off the beaten path a little, it is a good idea maybe bring along a little guidebook, a phrase book with you, or use your Google Translate app. I also highly recommend trying to learn some Indonesian before you come.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a hard language to learn, and even just a few basic phrases can really make the difference to your trip. In my experience, the people really appreciate it if you try and speak a little bit of their language, and it can open up more opportunities for you to connect with locals and have a more authentic experience. The first few times I travelled solo to Sumatra, I learned a little bit of Indonesian, enough to have like a conversation, and it made such a difference. I can make friends faster. I got to do way more things than I would have if I didn't speak it, I think. If you'd like to start learning some Indonesian for your trip, check out the Duolingo app. It's free, the basic levels are free, and it really helps.
And you probably wonder what thank you in Indonesian is terima kasih. So
Yes.
everybody will know that.
It's a very good word to
Terima
learn.
kasih.
Terima
So,
kasih.
yeah. People always asking us what to wear in Sumatra. The answer is depend where you go and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because 90% of population in Sumatra is Muslim.
Yeah, that means it's quite a conservative place. So you will need to give some thought about covering up a little, especially if you're a woman. But having said that, there are some areas that are more relaxed than others. Like here in Lake Toba, you can wear like a sundress, shorts and singlets with no problem at all. Also some of the touristy areas, that's completely fine. Outside of these places, when travelling around Sumatra in general, I would recommend sticking to a general rule of cover your shoulders, your chest and down to your knees.
Yes.
It just makes you feel more comfortable, it avoids you being stared at, and it avoids you offending anyone accidentally.
And this is extra important in strong Muslim area like Aceh and West Sumatra. When you're there, show your respect by wearing long sleeves and long pants or skirt.
Yeah, while we're on the subject of culture and customs, another thing to consider is alcohol. It is available in quite a few places. Beer bintang is kind of widely available. Other things like wine and stronger spirits are a little more expensive, but you can get them in certain areas. But in some places you may find it hard to find alcohol. So if you're a big party animal, you might want to stick to the tourist spots. Overall, while the culture may be different to what you're used to, Sumatra is a really friendly, welcoming and tolerant place to visit. And it's a really awesome place to learn about other cultures and embrace them. After all, there's more than 50, so you've got your work cut out for you. We couldn't possibly cover everything you need to know about culture on one video, but here's a few of our top tips from Agung.
When you meet someone new, it's normal to shake your hand, and then you might know they put their hand after shaking your heart, example like this. And that's mean you're welcome in my heart. Make sure you use your right hand, because the left hand is unclean hand, which is we're gonna talk about this later in the video.
Yeah, so use your right hand for paying for things,
Yes.
touching things,
Yes.
eating,
Yes.
shaking hands.
Yes. But if you forget, don't worry, we totally understand. And also important to put your shoes off if you enter the house.
And lastly, tipping is not expected in Sumatra, but it is quite nice if you have a private driver or a guide and you're happy with what work that they've done. Totally okay, and really nice to give them a bit of an extra tip, because sometimes they get quite a low salary, yeah?
Yes,
So the
yes.
tip can make a huge difference to them.
Totally up to you.
Up to you. That's it. Now on to the next one.
Yes.
Toilets and,
Toilets.
and showers.
And showers.
Yeah. If you've been to an Asian country before, you're probably familiar with squat toilets, which is what they mostly use in Indonesia. Squat toilets are very common, although you are going to find a decent amount of Western style toilets depending on where you go. It's important to note that in most places there's not going to be toilet paper in the bathroom, and if there is, you're not actually meant to flush it down the toilet because the plumbing is not set up for that.
Instead, you're gonna find two different things. First is gayung, which is a big tap of water, and then you use gayung apa gayung?
Like a oversized cup?
Yeah, to flush the toilet and to clean yourself after you do your business.
Yep.
Or second is bum gun.
Bum gun.
Bum gun.
A bum gun is like a hose with a trigger that you use to clean yourself after you use the toilet.
Yes.
It's actually quite handy. Once you've used one, you might always miss it when you go to your own country.
And if you watch until this part, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe button. That will help us so much. Thank you.
Yeah, now that we're talking about toilets. My tip for the girls is always to bring toilet paper with you in your bag and bring it in a sealed plastic bag with some extra plastic bags. When you're in the middle of nowhere with no toilet paper, you can clean yourself with the mangkok or the squirt gun, but then you're still going to be a bit damp, which is not very nice. So use the toilet paper to dry yourself, tuck it into your plastic bag and stash it into make sure you get a sealable bag, yeah? And put it in your bag until you get to a bin later on. Top tip, bring some wipes or toilet paper with you so you can stay comfortable.
Shower can be different too. Some place you can find like you used to, fell down.
Yeah. Oh.
And other places, like in my village, for example, we use a big bucket, and then we use...
It'll scoop the water up and pour it over your head.
Yes. Or go to the river.
Or go to the river, or the waterfall, depending on where you are.
Yes.
I remember also not everywhere will have hot water, and not everywhere needs hot water because it's hot here.
Exactly.
Cities and big hotels will, but maybe more remote areas, enjoy a nice, refreshing, cold bucket shower. Now we're on to our last, as the sun sets behind us, our 10th tip of the day, and that's about safety in Sumatra. Our most popular article on our website at Exploring Sumatra is Sumatra Safe? So people are really concerned about this. Sumatra was the first place I ever travelled solo by myself, and I felt completely safe the whole time. I had an amazing positive experience. I spent time in Banda Aceh, Pulau, North Sumatra. I haven't travelled elsewhere yet, but I hear only really positive things from other tourists who have.
Big city in Sumatra has the same risk like other world. You just have to be extra careful. But villages are different. Usually it's a small community. They know each other, they help each other, and then much more safety.
Yeah, it's true. When I went to small villages, I was treated like a member of the family, and people took care of me and looked after me like I was one of their daughters or sisters. Health-wise, there are some illnesses you need to be aware of. There are some mosquito-borne diseases around Indonesia, like malaria or dengue fever.
Yeah.
So just be aware and use mosquito repellent and cover yourself up wearing long sleeves maybe in the evening to keep away from them. And then we'll just end with a few safety trips for Sumatra, yeah?
Don't drink a tap water.
Always use mosquito repellent.
And use sunscreen.
Yep. Drink a lot of water all the time because you can get dehydrated from the heat.
Wear your seat belt in the cars.
Yes, and wear your helmet on a motorbike or a scooter.
And if you see a snake, don't play with them.
Yeah, never play with the snake. And then if you can, stick to registered and recommended guides and drivers. As you know, travel can be unpredictable and unexpected can happen. Sumatra is on the ring of fire, so there is the odd earthquake and active volcanoes. Our advice for every situation is to always have travel insurance. We learned that the hard way. We let ours run out a while ago and we got some really unfortunate hospital bills. So use travel insurance, please. We recommend using Safety Wing. They provide travel and medical insurance and also COVID cover, and they can do short-term travellers or long-term travellers, and they're really good for digital nomads. So go check them out. You can look at our link in the description below. Whatever you do, whatever company you use, please try and get travel insurance.
That's right. Bonus tip.
Yes.
So we saved the most important tip for last.
If there's one thing we want you to know about Sumatra and remember from this video, it's this.
Sumatra is full of beauty and adventure, but what makes it extra special is the people.
Truth. People here are awesome. You're going to meet the warmest, friendliest people with the biggest smiles. They're going to call you brother or sister from the moment they meet you, and you're going to walk away with friends for life. Sumatra people are curious about tourists. You'll probably get asked quite a lot of personal questions like if you're married, how old are you, do you have kids? But it's generally just they want to know you. They're really interested in your life. So just enjoy it. And you'll probably get asked for quite a few photos, particularly if you're going to small villages. Just enjoy it and take some selfies. But also, along with this, They might invite you to their homes to share a meal and meet their families, so soak it all up. If you're on the fence about visiting Sumatra, we're going to leave you with one important piece of advice that you're probably going to hear all through Sumatra.
Never try, never know.
Never try, never know. Book the flights, plan your trips, and come and experience this amazing place for yourself. And if you do come here, please get in touch. We love connecting with people. We love to hear about your trip and learning more about the places we haven't been yet. Or if you come to Lake Toba, share a beer or a coffee with us. We'd love to say hi. Otherwise,
see you in Sumatra.
see you in Sumatra.
Horas.
Thank you for watching. Horas.